18. He had probably over 1,000 in his family. That's bigger than our church, isn't it? And he was the patriarch. He was the priest. He would intercede. He offered the sacrifices. This is a role that is purely, absolutely, 100% a male role all through the Bible. Why did God make a distinction in the offering? Sometimes he said this is to be a male lamb and this was to be a female goat. And why would he even specify genders of these creatures that were types if gender didn't mean anything? It does mean something. Why does it trace the genealogy of Jesus both on Mary's side and on Joseph's side through the men? There's a reason for that. That's because that's the culture back then. They were patriarchal. They were primitive. I mean, after all, they had too many wives. God didn't support that. God did not support this dominant picture of men. And they'll use they had slaves back then too. So, I mean, if you're going to support slavery, then, and they lump this truth in the New Testament with the other inconsistencies you see. Was it ever part of God's plan that a man have more than one wife? Never. Did he wink at those times of ignorance? Absolutely. Was it ever part of God's plan that one man should own another man? Slavery? No. God made laws about those things to protect the people. He winked at their ignorance because of the hardness of their hearts. He made certain provisions. But you don't find the relationship of the roles in family falling into that category. It goes back to the Garden of Eden. And that's where Paul references it when he uses these truths. Go to 1 Peter chapter 3. 1 Peter 3, verse 1. And I'll read verse 2. Wives, likewise, be submissive to your own husbands, that even if some do not obey the word, they may, without a word, be won by the conduct, the behavior, the conversation of the wives, when they observe your chaste conduct accompanied by fear. I'm going to jump to verse 5. For in this manner, in former times, the holy women who trusted in God also adorned themselves, being submissive to their own husbands. As Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord. Now, I'm not going to ask Karen to call me Lord on the way home. But Peter is just using that. He's not commanding that the wives all call their husbands Lord. And husbands, don't now abuse this sermon. It's the worst thing you could do. You think you got it bad now, just wait. But Peter's using this as an example of how she respected her husband. Whose daughters you are. You are the daughters of Sarah, who called her husband Lord. If you do what is good and you're not afraid with any terror. Then he goes on, and notice this, I didn't want to stop early. Husbands likewise dwell with them with understanding. Now that's a miracle right there when we can understand them. But it says, dwell with them with understanding, giving honor to the wife as the weaker vessel. It's a lot easier to submit when you are honored. You know, the Bible says that we're to honor the Lord. The Bible says honor your father and mother. And the Bible says husbands, honor your wives. And so husbands are to protect their families and honor and cherish their wives as the weaker vessel and being heirs together of the grace of life. Where are we one? Men and women, slave and free, Greek and Jew. We are heirs together of salvation. So you notice that Peter helps explain what Paul meant because he says, oh yeah, that one Paul is talking about, that means we're heirs together. But Peter says it right after he says, wives should be submissive to their husbands. You with me? Is this still making sense so far? All right, what about in the church now? We're going to transition. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 11. Let a woman learn in silence with all submission. And I do not permit a woman to teach or have authority over a man, but to be in silence. This is the same one who wrote Galatians. There's neither male or female. He wrote this too. It sounds like the same person. For Adam, now where does Paul go for support? Where does Paul go for biblical support for this principle? He goes to the customs of the day. He goes to pagan traditions and mores. Is that where he goes? He goes to the Bible. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived fell into transgression. Nevertheless, she'll be saved in childbearing if they continue in faith and holiness with self-control. Now, we've already read this, but I just wanted to remind you, it said, let a woman learn in silence with all submission. Before I comment on that, I'm going to read 2 other verses, and I'll talk about what does that mean about women learning in silence in the church. That could be quickly misunderstood if we're not careful. Go to 1 Timothy chapter 3, verse 2. 1 Timothy chapter 3. I'm just in the same book. He's still talking about similar issues. A bishop then must be blameless, the husband of one wife. Now, what is a bishop? The word bishop is episkopos. It means a superintendent, a Christian officer generally in charge of a church, an overseer, a shepherd. Now, let the Bible explain itself. If you look, for instance, in 1 Peter 2, don't leave 1 Timothy, but maybe I'll even put it up there on the screen for you in a minute. 1 Peter 2:25, Peter says, for you were as sheep going astray, but you've now returned to the shepherd and bishop, episkopos, same exact word, of your souls. So the bishops were the shepherds, they were the pastors, they were the leaders of the flocks. Is that clear? And it says they should be husbands of one wife. Now, some have wondered, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that if they've ever been married before and their wife died or they were divorced, that they could never be a bishop? They still had polygamy back then. They were talking about not to have multiple wives, because they still even had that in some of the Roman Empire. Husbands of one wife, there's support for that. Temperate, sober-minded, of good behavior, hospitable, able to teach, not given to wine, not violent, not greedy for money, but gentle, not quarrelsome, not covetous. Notice, one who rules his own house well, having his children in submission with all reverence. For if a man does not know how to rule his own house, how will he take care of the church of God? Do you see Paul making a connection between the family, the house, and the church? There's no break there. Our churches are an extension of our families, aren't they, when we get together? And by the way, as goes the family, so goes the church, and as goes the church, so goes the country. Every government is built on the morals of its people. And when they lose their morals, the country loses its heading. One more verse, and then we'll talk. You're allowed to disagree. Just don't be disagreeable. One more verse before we talk about the teaching part. 1 Corinthians 14:34. Paul again speaking here. Let the women keep silent in the church.